A fox and a lion are both hungry and thirsty. They come across a pond where there are some fish and some water. The fox wants to catch a fish, but the lion wants to drink the water. They start to argue about who should go first, and they end up fighting each other. Meanwhile, the fish swim away and the water becomes muddy. Both the fox and the lion lose their chance to satisfy their needs, and they leave the pond feeling angry and frustrated.
What can we learn from this story? How can we avoid being like the fox and the lion, who let their emotions get the better of them? How can we be more calm, rational, and virtuous in our lives? This is where Stoicism comes in. Stoicism is an ancient philosophy that teaches us how to live well in a world that is often chaotic, uncertain, and unfair. It helps us to focus on what we can control, and to accept what we cannot. It also guides us to act according to our reason and our moral values, rather than our impulses and desires. By practicing Stoicism, we can achieve a state of inner peace, happiness, and freedom. If you want to learn more about Stoicism and how to apply it to your life, please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell, so you don't miss any of my videos. I promise you won't regret it. And don't be weak, stay till the end. In this video, I will share with you some of the most important Stoic lessons that can help you control your emotions and improve your well-being. These lessons are based on the writings and teachings of some of the most famous Stoic philosophers, such as Epictetus, Seneca, Cicero, and Marcus Aurelius. I will also give you some examples of how you can use these lessons in your everyday situations. Let's begin. 1. Distinguish between what is in your control and what is not. One of the core principles of Stoicism is that we should focus only on what is in our power, and not worry about what is not. As Epictetus said, some things are in our control and others not. Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever are our own actions. Things not in our control are body, property, reputation, command, and, in one word, whatever are not our own actions. This means that we should not let ourselves be disturbed by external events that are beyond our influence, such as the weather, the economy, or other people's opinions. Instead, we should concentrate on our own thoughts, feelings, and actions, which are under our control. For example, suppose you have an important presentation at work tomorrow. You have prepared well and practiced your speech. However, you cannot control how your boss or your colleagues will react to your presentation. They might like it or they might hate it. They might praise you or they might criticize you. You have no power over their judgments. So what should you do? Should you worry about their opinions and lose sleep over them? No. That would be irrational and unproductive. You should focus on what you can control, your own performance. You should do your best to deliver a clear, confident, and convincing presentation. You should be proud of yourself for doing a good job. You should not let your happiness depend on other people's reactions. By distinguishing between what is in your control and what is not, you can save yourself a lot of stress and anxiety. You can also avoid wasting your time and energy on things that don't matter. You can focus on what matters, your own excellence. 2. Choose your attitude. Another key lesson from Stoicism is that we have the power to choose how we perceive and respond to any situation. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This means that we can decide how we want to feel about anything that happens to us or around us. We can choose to see things positively or negatively. We can choose to be grateful or resentful. We can choose to be calm or angry. For example, suppose you are stuck in traffic on your way to an appointment. You have no control over the traffic jam or the delay it causes. But you have control over how you react to it. You could choose to see it as a disaster and get angry at the drivers around you or at yourself for leaving late. You could curse and honk your horn and make yourself more stressed and miserable. Or you could choose to see it as an opportunity and stay calm and relaxed. You could use the extra time to listen to some music or a podcast or an audiobook that you enjoy. You could call your friend or family member and have a nice conversation. You could practice some breathing exercises or meditation to calm your mind and body. By choosing your attitude, you can turn any situation into a positive or a negative one. You can also influence how you feel and how you behave. You can be happier and more peaceful, or you can be unhappier and more agitated. The choice is yours. 3. Act according to your values. A third important lesson from Stoicism is that we should act according to our values, not according to our emotions or desires. As Seneca said, it is the power of the mind to be unconquerable. This means that we should not let our emotions or desires dictate our actions, but rather our reason and our moral principles. We should not act impulsively or selfishly, but rather deliberately and virtuously. We should not do what is easy or pleasant, but rather what is right and good. For example, suppose you are tempted to cheat on a test or a project at school or work. You know that cheating is wrong and dishonest, but you also want to get a good grade or a promotion. You feel conflicted between your values and your desires. What should you do? Should you cheat and risk getting caught and losing your reputation and integrity? No. That would be immoral and foolish. You should resist the temptation and do your own work. You should be honest and diligent. You should do what is honorable and respectable. By acting according to your values, you can strengthen your character and your self-respect. You can also earn the respect and trust of others. You can be proud of yourself for being a good person. 4. Lead by example. A fourth valuable lesson from Stoicism is that we should lead by example, not by words. As Cicero said, the authority of those who teach is often an obstacle to those who want to learn. This means that we should not try to teach or persuade others by lecturing them or telling them what to do, but rather by showing them how to do it through our own actions. We should not preach or judge others, but rather inspire and influence them by our own behavior. For example, suppose you want to help your friend or family member who is struggling with a bad habit or an addiction. You know that they need to change their lifestyle and their mindset, but they are resistant or defensive. What should you do? Should you nag them or criticize them or give them unsolicited advice? No. That would be annoying and ineffective. You should support them and encourage them by being a positive role model. You should show them how you have overcome your own challenges and how you have improved your own well-being. You should demonstrate how you live according to your values and goals. By leading by example, you can help others without hurting them. You can also improve yourself without being arrogant or hypocritical. You can be a leader without being a dictator. 5. Diminish your ego. A fifth essential lesson from Stoicism is that we should diminish our ego, not inflate it. As Epictetus said, he who laughs at himself never runs out of things to laugh at. This means that we should not take ourselves too seriously or too personally. We should not think that we are better or more important than others, or that we are entitled to anything. We should not be attached to our opinions or our possessions, or be offended by anything. Instead, we should be humble and modest. We should recognize our flaws and limitations, and be willing to learn from others and from our mistakes. We should be grateful for what we have, and be generous with what we can give. We should laugh at ourselves and at life, and not be afraid of ridicule or failure. For example, suppose you are working on a project with a team of people who have different opinions and skills than you. You think that your ideas are the best and that your way of doing things is the only way. What should you do? Should you impose your views on others and ignore their feedback? No. That would be arrogant and disrespectful. You should listen to others and consider their perspectives. You should collaborate with them and compromise with them. You should appreciate their contributions and acknowledge their strengths. By diminishing your ego, you can avoid conflicts and resentments. You can also foster relationships and cooperation. You can be a team player without being a pushover. 6. You're not entitled to anything. A sixth crucial lesson from Stoicism is that we're not entitled to anything, but rather responsible for everything. As Marcus Aurelius said, do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good. This means that we should not expect anything from life or from others, but rather appreciate everything as a gift or an opportunity. We should not complain about what we don't have, but rather make the best of what we have. We should not take anything for granted, but rather be grateful for every moment and every person in our lives. We should not be lazy or careless, but rather be diligent and conscientious. We should not be selfish or greedy, but rather be generous and compassionate. For example, suppose you are unhappy with your job or your relationship or your health. You think that you deserve better and that life is unfair to you. You blame others or circumstances for your problems and you wait for things to change. What should you do? Should you continue to be unhappy and passive? No. That would be foolish and wasteful. You should realize that you are not entitled to anything and that you are responsible for everything. You should take action and change what you can, and accept what you can't. You should work hard and improve yourself, and help others and improve the world. You should live every day as if it were your last, and be good. By realizing that you're not entitled to anything, but rather responsible for everything, you can avoid disappointment and bitterness. You can also create meaning and joy. You can be a hero without being a martyr. I appreciate you if you have made it this far. Leave a comment if you have learned something new or if you have any questions or feedback. But hold on, there are still some more tips to discuss. 7. Prepare for the worst. A seventh vital lesson from Stoicism is that we should prepare for the worst, not hope for the best. As Seneca said, nothing happens to the wise man against his expectation. This means that we should not be naive or optimistic, but rather realistic and cautious. We should not assume that everything will go well, but rather anticipate that everything could go wrong. We should not be surprised or shocked by adversity, but rather prepared and resilient. For example, suppose you are planning a trip or a project or a date. You have high expectations and you are excited about the outcome. You think that everything will go smoothly and that nothing will go wrong. What should you do? Should you ignore the possible risks and challenges and hope for the best? No. That would be imprudent and reckless. You should consider the possible obstacles and difficulties and prepare for the worst. You should have a backup plan and a contingency plan. You should be ready to face any problem and to overcome any setback. By preparing for the worst, you can avoid being caught off guard and being overwhelmed. You can also cope better and adapt faster. You can be a survivor without being a pessimist. 8. Live in the present. An eighth indispensable lesson from Stoicism is that we should live in the present, not in the past or in the future. As Marcus Aurelius said, do not let the future trouble you. You will come to it, if you have to, with the same reason you now apply to the present. This means that we should not dwell on the past or worry about the future, but rather focus on the present. We should not regret what we have done or not done, or what has happened or not happened, but rather learn from it and move on. We should not fear what we will do or not do, or what will happen or not happen, but rather plan for it and act on it. For example, suppose you are haunted by a mistake or a loss that you have experienced in the past. You feel guilty or sad or angry about it. You think that you could have done something differently or that things could have turned out differently. What should you do? Should you keep thinking about it and let it affect your present? No. That would be unwise and unhealthy. You should accept the past and let it go. You should forgive yourself and others. You should use the past as a lesson, not as a burden. Or suppose you are anxious about a decision or a goal that you have to make or achieve in the future. You feel nervous or doubtful or stressed about it. You think that you might not be able to do it or that things might not work out. What should you do? Should you keep worrying about it and let it paralyze your present? No. That would be foolish and harmful. You should embrace the future and act on it. You should trust yourself and others. You should use the future as a motivation, not as a fear. By living in the present, you can avoid being distracted and being unhappy. You can also enjoy and appreciate what you have and what you do. You can be a master without being a slave. 9. Be indifferent to things that are indifferent. A ninth fundamental lesson from Stoicism is that we should be indifferent to things that are indifferent, not attached to things that are attached. As Epictetus said, we are not disturbed by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens to us. This means that we should not care about things that are not important or relevant to our well-being, but rather ignore them or disregard them. We should not be attached to things that are external or material, such as money, fame, or pleasure, but rather detach ourselves from them or use them wisely. For example, suppose you are obsessed with your appearance or your possessions or your status. You think that they define you and that they make you happy. You spend a lot of time and money and energy on them. What should you do? Should you continue to be obsessed and attached to them? No. That would be irrational and unhealthy. You should realize that they are indifferent and that they do not matter. You should not let them affect your emotions or your actions. You should not depend on them or be enslaved by them. Or suppose you are indifferent to your health or your relationships or your values. You think that they do not affect you and that they do not make you happy. You neglect them or abuse them or violate them. What should you do? Should you continue to be indifferent and detached from them? No. That would be immoral and unwise. You should realize that they are important and that they matter. You should care about them and respect them and protect them. You should cherish them and be enriched by them. By being indifferent to things that are indifferent, and not attached to things that are attached, you can avoid being troubled and being unhappy. You can also be free and be content. You can be a sage without being a fool. 10. Be kind to everyone. A 10th and final lesson from Stoicism is that we should be kind to everyone, not hostile to anyone. As Seneca said, wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. This means that we should not be rude or mean or violent to anyone, but rather polite and nice and peaceful. We should not harm or hurt or hate anyone, but rather help and heal and love everyone. We should not see anyone as an enemy or a stranger, but rather as a friend or a brother. For example, suppose you encounter someone who is rude or mean or violent to you. You feel offended or hurt or angry by them. You want to retaliate or avoid or condemn them. What should you do? Should you be rude or mean or violent back to them? No. That would be unkind and unjust. You should be kind and forgiving to them. You should not take their behavior personally or let it affect your mood. You should try to understand them and empathize with them. You should show them compassion and kindness. Or suppose you encounter someone who is different or unfamiliar or distant from you. You feel indifferent or curious or wary of them. You don't know anything about them or their culture or their situation. What should you do? Should you just watch or read and forget? No. That would be useless and wasteful. You should practice and remember. You should implement and review the Stoic lessons and tips in your daily life. You should make them part of your habits and your values. You should make them your philosophy. By seeking wisdom, not knowledge, you can avoid being ignorant and superficial. You can also become enlightened and profound. You can be a Stoic without being a student. These are some of the most important Stoic lessons that can help you control your emotions and improve your well-being. I hope you have found them useful and inspiring. If you have, please give this video a like and share it with your friends and family. And if you haven't, please let me know why and how I can improve. Thank you for watching. Remember, don't be like the fox and the lion, who let their emotions get the better of them. Be like the Stoics, who use their reason and their virtue to master their emotions and live well.